Hello and welcome to Dumfries Station. And this morning it's bitterly cold and we have freezing fog engulfing the station. I last visited the station back in March when it was, well, a little bit warmer than it is today. Dumfries was formerly a railway centre of considerable significance. It was an intermediate station on the Carlisle to Glasgow or Nith Valley route of the Glasgow and South Western Railway, and the junction station for the Dumfries Stranraer Port Road, along with various shorter branch lines of the Glasgow and South Western Railway and Caledonian Railway. The station was opened by the Glasgow and South Western Railway around March 1859, and it replaced two interim and predecessor stations. Unfortunately, Dumfries and Galloway suffered particularly badly from the beaching cuts of the mid-1960s, but the station still retains an important role on the route between Carlisle and Glasgow. There were originally 3 through lines and 2 bay lines at the northern end of the station. As you will have seen earlier in the video, the station is renowned for its beautiful gardens on both platforms. You can see here the original location of the 2 bay platforms, which were for services to Lockerbie and west to Stranraer Harbour. When these lines were closed, the area was infilled and is now used as a car park. The main building here on the northbound platform comprises of 2 stories and an attic with single-storey wings and was completed in 1863. The southbound platform, which carries trains to Carlisle, is a single-storey building and dates from 1885. I particularly like this timber, steel and cast iron footbridge which connects the northbound and southbound platforms. This elegant former station bookstall discreetly advertises an informal collection of rail memorabilia under the banner of Railway Reflections. There's a Facebook page which is called Railway Reflections Museum Dumfries. The original layout of Dumfries Station is captured beautifully in this model railway display. There is so much information here about the history and the key events that have taken place over the years at the station, and it's well worth spending some time just looking at the numerous newspaper cuttings and articles on display. These plaques still proudly display the award of Best Station in 1986 and 1987. I was also really taken with these memorials that were put in place to railway conductors who had worked for a number of years at the station and who are fondly remembered by their colleagues. Just look at this decorative niche-like cast iron drinking fountain which is set into the southbound platform elevation. These filigree brackets, incorporating the company's coat of arms, also caught my eye. Another key event in the history of the station was the evaporated milk factory, which was opened in 1935 by Carnation, and there were 3 units producing tin cans, evaporated milk, and Coffee Mate. The original factory had private siding access to the station's goods yard, which gave access for milk trains to come into the facility, both to deliver raw product as well as distribution to London and other major destinations in the UK. Milk tank wagons were a common sight on the railways from the early 1930s until the late 1960s. By the early 1970s, the Milk Marketing Board had switched entirely to road haulage, and only Express Dairies and Unigate continued to use rail transport. The United States parent company of Carnation was bought by Nestlé in 1985, after which a decline in the facility began. Coffee Mate production ceased in the year 2000, after which the site was fully redeveloped as an industrial estate. To sum up, Dumfries is a fine, well-detailed example of a mid-19th century station. The refined styling of the principal buildings is notable, as are the number of structures and period features which survive to this day. There is around an hourly service during the daytime, Mondays to Saturdays, between Dumfries and Carlisle, with a 2-hourly service in the evenings. There were 8 direct services from Carlisle to Glasgow Central heading north, and 7 services between Glasgow and Carlisle heading south. There's also a few additional services between Glasgow and Dumfries which begin and terminate here. On Sundays, there's a 2-hourly service during the afternoons and evenings to and from Carlisle, with 2 of the trains continuing northbound to Glasgow. Well, it's 24 hours later, and gone is the freezing fog from yesterday to be replaced by beautiful sunshine. It's a lovely winter's day, but very cold with temperatures well below freezing. Well, I've come along to the White Sands area of Dumfries, and following in the footsteps of my 1861 George Bradshaw's illustrative handbook, Bradshaw mentioned the pleasant walks which line the riverbank. The town, said Bradshaw, has a little shipping trade, and shoes and cotton goods are the principal manufacturers. The streets, according to Bradshaw, were clean and well built. He went on to say that at the Commercial Inn, Charles Stuart, Bonnie Prince Charlie, took up his headquarters in 1745. Bradshaw mentioned that there were three slender spires, which are the first to strike the stranger's eye, one of which belongs to St. Michael's, an old church of the 13th century, which you can see here in the distance. Bradshaw went on to say that there are about 1,800 monuments within the churchyard itself. In the corner of the churchyard is the handsome mausoleum to Robert Burns. Burns's widow, Jean Armour, survived him until 1834, living at a small house in Burns Street, which was previously called Mill Hole Bray. Well, I've come to the end of another lovely railway journey, albeit a very cold one. I'm going to leave you with these wonderful views of the White Sands at Dumfries before moving on to visit Burns's mausoleum at St. Michael's Church, and finally to the small house where Burns lived in the later years of his life and where he died in 1796.